Testing, testing, testing. Welcome back to Evil Scuba Diver. We're talking about every single album I listened to in December 2024. Yeah! This is the second month in a row we're doing this. I'm gonna try and keep it up, see how it goes, etc. Before I pull up my album list, look at this stuff. Look at that. Listen to a lot of albums this month. A lot of albums. We're going to talk about them. We're going to yap about them. One thing I also want to say real quick, we're upgrading the budget. We're upgrading the situation we got going on here. Instead of Fortnite gameplay B-roll, we're going to have 2x speed Fortnite gameplay B-roll and music in the background as I'm talking, because we love to evolve. I studied the last video I released for November listens, and I'm going to upgrade it. Let's hop straight into it. Time Skiffs, Animal Collective. Listen to this album last month. This was a really chill album, though. This has been sort of a highlight of my month, I'm not gonna lie. Sort of listening to this album. Songs like Cherokee, songs like Walker, just like all these different sounds going on. They got all these marimbas going on, all these steel drums, very percussive elements. I listened to a lot of Animal Collective this month. You're gonna see it later on this list. I listened to pretty much all their albums. Maybe I'll do a Discog ranking when I finish all of them in January, but I listened to a lot of their stuff. This one still ranks highest for me. Is like, man, I just love the sound of this album so much. It's like very ancient. It sounds very ancient, like they're using like rain shakers and just using really interesting instruments and stuff like that. Sounds like Pompeii. Does that make sense? It sounds like Pompeii. Does that make? I don't know if that makes sense or not. You can, yeah, whatever. Speaking of Animal Collective, we also listened to Merriweather Post Pavilion by Animal Collective. This is the first time I listened to it like front to back. Like I listened to a lot of Animal. There's gonna be a lot of Animal Collective on this list. Like I said, listened to this album front to back, blew me away. I remember listening to this like a year and a half ago and like thinking like I got like to In the Flowers like halfway through, and when the beat dropped or whatever, I was like, oh, this sounds like static. I don't like it. I turned it off because I was a weakling. I had no taste. Now I'm coming back to this. I think this album's like a feat. I think it could be studied the same way we study an album like Pet Sounds, to be perfectly honest. Like the way the songs sort of just like bloom and all the samples they're using, and just it's just like a feat of production to me. Like a song like Bluish, the way the elements stack, you have that ambient intro and that little pad comes in, which might be a sample. I don't know, that they flipped in some way. And then on top of that, you got the vocals coming in and I mean, it's such a weird album. A lot of tribal percussive drums, a lot of glitchy synths. The song Daily Routine is absolutely mesmerizing to me. Summertime Clothes, yeah man. Also that album cover, I mean, what? Dude, it's like a equation, or not an equation, a mesmerization. I don't know. There's something to be said about how a song like Summertime Clothes can exist. You know what I mean? Like, how do you start a song like that? How do you come up with a melody on top of those synths to begin with? How do you even think of those drums? It's just like, it's such a feat of like creativity. It's like so intentional with how weird it is. Some of the songs are almost depressing, how emotional they can make you feel about stuff that doesn't exist and make you nostalgic about times you never had. Next album, Is It Now, Animal Collective. I told y'all, a lot of Animal Collective. Is It Now though, it's supposed to be the companion piece of Time Skiffs, like they were made in the same time, but the more I listen to Is It Now, because I've listened to it a couple times over, it's just not as intriguing to me. It's like, it's more of a stark ambient project. It's like, it's not even really, it doesn't feel like it's finished. A song like Defeat, it's 22 minutes long, right? But there's not any insane sound play going on as much as the other songs. It's just kind of like an ambient organ fog. I felt like the last songs are pretty I feel like Is It Now is just kind of half-baked. Like they could have spent like, I don't know, a couple more sessions fleshing these songs out, getting some new effects in there. Not too much to say, just not really my favorite Animal Collective album. I think Broke Zodiac, Magicians of Baltimore, that little pow. If you hear Magicians of Baltimore, you hear that sound, you know what I'm talking about. That part's cool. But yeah, this album was just kind of like, okay. Next album, Pom Pom, Ariel Pink. I listened to this album before, re-listened to it this month because I was like on a vibe, I don't know. If you've never listened to this album, I think it's a must listen. It's like a different type of production that you'll never hear in your life ever. I mean, that's what Ariel Pink specializes in, is this like pseudo-mutated 60s like psychedelic sort of experience where you're getting music from like, I don't know, a mutated dimension. But this time around, listening to it this December, I'm kind of just realizing this album is very sexually frustrated. I think Ariel's a very sexually frustrated guy. Songs like Black Ballerina, it's pretty much just like a storybook song about like this weird meek little dude meeting a stripper and being like all intimidated, like, oh, you're so hot, you're so cute. Hi. You got songs like, I mean, Sexual Athletics. I mean, that's a song name, that's a title. Also, Not Enough Violence, which I'm pretty sure is about penetration. Planting Bodies at the Body Farm. The Fertilizer. I mean, it's like, there's some themes going on there. It's pretty interesting if you put it in a context of like anatomy and like what's a body farm? What makes bodies? Well, women. What's Fertilizer? Well, Fertilizer, I don't know. I'm thinking about it. It's just, this album's very kind of sexual. But it's an insane album. Insane use of cartoony sound effects and like vocal delivery. Like the way he's using his vocals, the way he's using these almost like sound effects panning in the mix. Like it makes it sound like a cartoon. This album's been a highlight of new music I've found over the past year, so I'd definitely check it out. Next album, Folenium, TV Girl and George Clanton. TV Girl and George Clanton combined for a little album here. Album cover just sucks. I'm gonna be real with y'all though. Album cover, I do not like the album cover. It's just like not aesthetically pleasing. It's just like, I don't know. It doesn't look good. Also, I thought it felt more like a long EP than a project. There's a song on here, I think the second track is like called like Blue something. I don't know. Everything's Blue, something like that. And the song Life's a Trip. Those two songs are like standouts. Those are awesome songs. But everything else kind of just like floats away from me. I can't really remember too much. I remember the Butterflies song having a cool drop. They go into more like rave, dance-centered type beats. I think it's cool. I like it when they switch up their styles. I mean, George Clanton's really inspiring to me. I watched a bunch of interviews with him this December as well. TV Girl's a really interesting producer. He just like all the production. He doesn't even like speak on this album or sing or anything. He just does like production, throws some samples here and there. They took a risk. I think it panned out. I think it's cool. It's just only 2 songs really were memorable for me. Next album, Masana Temple's Kikigaku Moyo. Chill Japanese rock. Bro Mason put me onto this. He said, yo, listen to this album. This is what I've been listening to recently. And I put him on to Pom Pom. We'll see how he thinks about that. But he put me onto this, and I listened to it early December. It's dope. Dope little chill Japanese rock album. Was just walking around campus, getting some food, etc. Just like had this in my headphones. And it's not like a jazz fusion, insane cluster bomb of sounds or anything. It's just chill Japanese rock. It's just really chill stuff. What I've noticed about these sort of Japanese albums, because there's a couple on this month, is that their drums are always mixed a little bit muddier than American drums. Like they're always a little bit more natural sounding. Have a little bit more of I don't know, just like a room to them. American drums are always trying to make it sound as like sharp as possible and hit as hard as possible and really like make you feel something. But like Japanese, the way they mix their drums, at least from what I'm hearing from these albums, the drums are more of a natural piece of percussion. But yeah, no complaints. Cool little listen, dope vibe, chill vibe, like it. All right. Next album, Imaginal Disc, Magdalena Bay. Dude, it's great. It's a great album. It's so good. I listened to it last video as well. I sprouted out about how awesome it is, how the production's awesome, how Matthew, the main producer, is like an idol of mine now. I'm studying what he's doing and stuff like that. I'm coming back to it this month. What I'm really focusing on is songs like Angel on a Satellite. Just like very taken aback by like how the sound play is so soft. It's got these Beatle-ass like strings like from A Day in the Life that come in towards the middle too. But it sprouts off into its own thing. It's like a combination of this like ABBA sort of retro stuff going on with this futuristic synthy tone, and they have all this ambience and stuff like that. Like the start of Angel with the Satellite is like wind and thunder, and you hear some little bells or whatever, and it like drops you into this piano. It's immaculately produced, really inspiring me in my own ventures as well. Just like how to make something really intentional, how to make something really dope. Because I'm still working on music like every single day. Like literally the forefront of my mind when I wake up, go to sleep. It's just, you gotta work in silence a bit before you got something that's a little bit interesting for other people to hear, right? That's kind of where we're at right now. Songs like Killing Time, Angel on a Satellite, Cry For Me, like those are the 3 that were kind of sleeper hits for me before. But now I'm sort of realizing, oh, this album is like insane. When those acoustic guitars come in on Killing Time, doodaloo, in there in the right ear, it's like, oh my god. Talked about it a lot. Let's move on. You will never know why. Sweet Trip. Love this album. Love Sweet Trip's melodies. Listen to it at the gym. It's very nice, very cool. Got me through a nice little day. One thing I want to say real quick is the 2021 remaster of these songs improves everything. It's like one of the best remaster albums I've ever heard. Normally when I hear a remaster, I'm like, oh, why they even make that? Like, what, they spent like all this time just to make everything sound a little bit flatter, maybe a little bit louder or something like that, right? No, this one got it. This one knows exactly what it's doing, and I really appreciate that because it's dope. I just realized kind of this month the album cover is dark. It's about suicide. It's supposed to be like the shaving clip, like Needle in the Hay, Wes Anderson, Royal Tenenbaum sort of thing. Like that's kind of what it's supposed to be, but I didn't know that. I thought legitimately this might be dumb. I thought it was a room. I thought it was like a 2D blueprint of a room for the longest time. And like one day I'm just like I'm doing a rep or something. I looked down at my phone like, wait a second. Oh my gosh, you will never know why. And then then it clicked. I was like, oh, didn't know that at first. Didn't know that. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. One thing I also want to say though is that this is really interesting to me because Velocity Comfort Design, the Sweet Trip album that came out before this, it feels like it's more of an electronic album with hints of indie in there. And this album's like the opposite. One is like 80% electronic, 20% indie. Others 80% indie, 20% electronic. Just thought that was cool. It was a cool little thing. And speaking of it, while we're here, I also listened to Velocity Comfort Design by Sweet Trip. Listen to this as well. Great album. Like I said, very electronic. 2 years ago, I listened to that first song on the album. I was like, what even is this? But luckily for me, I was half asleep, so I was kind of rocking with it. I was like, oh, like he had to place every single static sound in the way he does. And like, I was kind of like, just like kind of mind blown by the fact that it took like so much like knowledge and like effort to place every one of these noises and stuff, pan in the mix in the way he wanted to for that first track. Like, so I think the male guy is the main electronic producer of the group. Correct me if I'm wrong. Like really long songs, like long-winded sort of just like sort of compositions. I think it's really dope. Also really inspiring how it's just like these two people just making whatever they want to make, combining sounds in a way that sounds cool to them. That's awesome. That's what I want to do. That's what I'm working on right now. I remember listening to this album while playing golf with friends on Xbox with my boys. And so that this album and that experience is sort of intertwined of like playing golf with friends and listening to this album, and it's just like, you know, like kind of like a video game world and like all this different like video game aesthetics and the glitchy production is kind of all just blending together. It makes a really cool vibe. It makes me feel cozy. But yeah, very cool. Very cool. Next album, Strawberry Jam, Animal Collective, Bonefish. Right? It's rougher than Merriweather Post Pavilion by a lot. It came out before. This is the album before the Merriweather Post Pavilion one. I saw an interview somewhere that Panda Bear, one of the main 4 people in Animal Collective, the guy who does pretty much the bulk of the drums and the production on the album, he was saying he wanted to produce something that sounded like the album cover, where it's a mix of like electronic stuff and a mix of analog stuff to make this sort of disgusting, sort of but natural thing, like Strawberry Jam, like a crushed strawberry, like kind of disgusting, but also like there's inherent beauty in it being like a fruit and it's natural and it's like a, you know, like a sweet thing. I can't really remember the individual soundscapes as much. I remember this album got pretty weird. I like that. It's something I can't really pinpoint as much as I can other albums, like songs and flows and stuff like that. And we'll get to other Animal Collective albums on this video here, but this one's just kind of struck me as like, all right, it's cool. I can appreciate the rougher sounds, but I don't know. I don't really appreciate rough Animal Collective as much as I appreciate like intentional, like really blissful Animal Collective. But yeah, cool. Next album, Wetland, Hiroshi Yoshimura. A small little ambient Japanese album. Listened to it while I was studying for finals early this December. Main sounds are like bells and synths and like wind ambience and like giant sort of cascading sort of like prairie plains of blue and white and gray, like the album cover pretty much. Yeah, it's got like an underwater Mario 64 level vibe. If it was like an ambient 50-minute album, it's cool, it's chill. Next album, Cosmic Slop, Funkadelic. This is a crazy sound effects packed album, which I can definitely get down with. I love myself some intrinsic sound effects panning every which way. But this is a short album. Packs a punch. A lot of weird ideas on here. Funkadelic really just gets weird. That's kind of what I appreciate from this album. Is like, this is the 70s. This is way back. This is before really we had like people who were getting crazy experimental. These guys were making albums, putting them on the vinyl, playing stuff like this, but on top of it, like doing spoken word and then pitching their vocals down and echoing and reverbing out and talking about like robots. Just completely batshit like weird ideas. The first 3 songs definitely stand out to me, and the last 3 not so much. It starts at the top and it kind of goes down a little bit album experience wise, but that's fine with me. That's fine, because I like this album. This album's cool. Not every album has to be a smash. I just appreciate the fact that it exists. I've listened to Maggot Brain on an airplane. I haven't really listened to that much Funkadelic, though, to compare Cosmic Slop to other albums, but this was also recommended to me by my boy Mason, who recommended that other Masana Temples album. So this is cool. This is a cool listen. It's so layered, right? Like, it needs like multiple listens to really break down all the instrumentation, all the weird ideas they're doing. Like, they got like weird percussion panned over here, then it's over here now. It's like, oh, it's over here now again. And just the way they're playing the percussion comes off to me as like kind of psychedelic in a way, which I think is a really cool aspect of this album. Something to appreciate. Next album, Smile, Porter Robinson. Shing. So good. It's like so one of one. You're never gonna hear an album like this. Oh my god. Oh my god. The most poppy, upbeat, happy for no reason production with lyrics that completely contrast. All the lyrics are about sort of just like growing and sort of like analyzing yourself and realizing like parts about you and sort of accepting in a way, but also realizing that you have issues. And it's like, oh, like the song Easier to Love You. Like, I wish the past me was easier to like stomach. because then it'd be easier to love me. It's like, that's such a crazy theme. And the instrumentals are just absolutely insane. Out of this world, Cheerleader, Mona Lisa, are you kidding me? This sounds like a beautiful little world he's got going on here. I really am just kind of inspired by it. It feels like a reclamation of life and joy. But yeah, it's pretty much just like EDM if like sugar and candy and rainbows and sunshine were permanent everywhere. Yeah, great album. Next album, Halt. Before this next album, we have a quick word from our sponsors. Thank you so much to Scuba Diver for sponsoring this video. You can listen to him on Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, Pandora if you use that shit, and many more, YouTube Music too. Thank you so much, and now back to the video. Schlagenheim, Black Midi. Listen to this album a lot, September, October. Spoiler alert, still awesome. It's still dope. It's still like the coolest thing ever. The production is so layered. 953. What were they cooking? How do you go into a studio and come up with something like that and then produce it? And then mix it, and it's like, huh? Genuinely blows me away. Because listen to it in headphones, listen to it in a car, it just gets more visceral and more insane every time I put it on. It's like there's never a time I listen to it and I'm like, oh, it's not hitting. It's not doing it for me. It's like every time I listen to it, it's like, oh, it's hitting something. And I'm hearing a new thing in the production that makes it hit even more. Like on Speedway, you got these like distorted bongos I heard on my third listen. I'm like, well, I didn't even know those distorted bongos were over on this side or whatever. And it's like, wow. Every cycle around the album, I hear something new, and it's insane, it's intense. I can't really understand how people so young came together and made something as insane as this. It's really awesome. It's kind of a generational album, low-key. I think it should be studied the same way we study like a Maggot Brain. Really dope. Kind of like a feat. Yeah, it's my fave Black Midi album, and this listen this month kind of just reinforced it. It's like, this is so insane. Like, I know Hellfire and Cavalcade are really dope. I could talk about those for like weeks at a time, right? But Schlagenheim, man, holy, it is so insane in left field, and it's just hard to picture three guys coming together with no precursor for how to make an album. Like, no album sounds like this. No album ever sounded like this before them. So for three young guys to just come in and make something like this, I mean, it really kind of shows how insanely talented these three were together and uncompromising they were in their sound, and just like be confident in this. I mean, this would sound like insane garbage to anybody else who heard it, but no, the producer and these three guys had a vision and they executed so wholeheartedly. I think it's just like inspiring. It's like, oh, it makes me want to get up and punch somebody. It makes me want to punch somebody. Next album, Everything Was Beautiful by Spiritualized. Saw this album cover on a Fantano like best album list a while ago, like a year, 2 years, I don't know when this came out, but I remember seeing the album cover and I was like, oh, that looks interesting. I just listened to it, just thought the album cover was cool, said okay, let's play it, and yeah, it's great. It's a cool album. Didn't know it was so rock influenced. There's a lot of rock influence on this thing. You got like rock drums, rock guitars. I thought it was gonna be more of like a floaty album where it's like an ambient and you got synths everywhere, but no, it's pretty heavy, and it gets heavier as the track list goes on, because each song sort of flows into each other, and the first song and the last song, they just get heavier and heavier and heavier, and it feels like the album gets like significantly angrier the longer you listen to it. And it's only like 30, I think it's like 40 minutes or something like that, 42 minutes, but it's quick, it's tight, it's punchy, it's awesome. I like it, it's dope. I thought the sound play was great. I said it needed a couple listens to break it down. I wrote that the first listen. I listened to it 2 times since then. It's a blur of a record though. I thought I was 4 songs in my first listen, and no, the album's done. Like, just didn't even know. It's cool, it's dope, it's produced really good. I like the vocals, I like the guitars, the instrumentation, the drum. It's just very cool. Everything was beautiful, man. Don't really know what to pick up from the lyrics of this. Maybe that like everything is beautiful, but it's cool. Let's keep going. Gemini Rights, Steve Lacy. Listened to this album before, obviously. Bad Habit, right? I mean, like, haha, you guys remember that from 2021? That was fun. Yeah, this album, what's it called? It reminded me how lo-fi Steve Lacy actually is. Like songs like Helmet, songs like Mercury, like they're not exactly mixed insanely great, but I don't really care. I mean, nobody should really care, to be honest. No mix is technically bad unless it's like abhorrent, right? But I like the fact that everything has like texture. Everything has a little bit more of like a lo-fi funk to it, a little more of a feel to it. I think it's dope. I think it really works. And yeah, he's channeling a lot of early R&B with his voice. Production's wild. Like, if you really take a listen to the vocal runs Steve Lacy's doing on this album, he's like, The melodies you hear on first listen, if you listen like really intently on the second or third time, you realize he's putting like 2 or 3 extra notes in there he doesn't need to do, but he does anyways because he's just kind of like he's really using his voice on this album, especially that last song, right? The most hi-fi thing in the album is these vocal stacks he's putting in here. He really wants to stress the harmonies and like his voice and his timbre. I think it's dope. That's kind of what I picked up this listen. Moving on. Painting With by Animal Collective. Painting With, what do I have to say about you? Nothing. This album sounds like Animal Collective just hopped on the Gang Beasts soundtrack or the Fall Guys soundtrack. Some of the stuff on here sounds like most like upbeat, insane parts of Merriweather Post Pavilion, like Brother Sport, but on coke or like Adderall or something. And one thing that kind of hit me on a second listen to this album, just sort of sitting with it and listening to it like really intently, eyes closed type shit, is that like they just do not want to do a conventional song structure at all. They have a cool melody going on. They have something that could be a nice chorus, something that could be commercial, but they completely flip it on its head and they go in this completely like insane direction that nobody would ever think anybody could do. I don't know why they did it. It makes the song a little bit more unlistenable, but they do it anyways. When they have something that is commercially, could be like rhythmically interesting, could be melodically interesting, they take that little spark of an idea and throw a completely different chord in there, a completely different wrench in the equation. You wouldn't have an album like this if they didn't do that. So I guess I have to appreciate the decisions they did because no album really sounds like this. They could have made like a really bouncy pop catchy album, but they made like a half catchy album and like half like insane, like weird sort of just like intangible experience with just all these like sounds floating around. You'll hear a song and you'll hear the chorus and be like, oh, this chorus actually might pan out really cool. And then halfway through the chorus, it'll just turn into like an ambient bum, 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 bum. Like, what? Okay, I thought we were in the chorus. Like, where'd this come from? You know what I mean? It's like, that's kind of what I got from this album. It's just like, it's all over the place. It's all over the place. This album's just on coke. It doesn't know how to sit down, doesn't know how to stay still. It's fidgeting with itself. Give this album a fidget spinner, low key. But yeah, nice album. Centipede Hurts, Animal Collective. This album, this got me. This is a sleeper hit album. Nobody talks about this album like they do Merriweather Post Pavilion or like Strawberry Jam or something like that, but I think it should be talked about equally, if not more so than Strawberry Jam. This is such an insane album. It's radio themed. All the mixes are very industrial. They're very spiky. They have so many sounds going on, and they have these like little radio interludes and like technological glitches and gloops and blips and blops that come in through every song. Also, they play with like lo-fi recording styles in a way that's like kind of having fun. I feel like there's a song on this album where they could record the vocals in a way that sounds nice, but instead they record it like the mic is 5 feet back, just for fun, just to have a cool, like they want the vocal to sound like it's 5 feet back from the mic, I guess. But it kind of struck me as like an intentional choice that was interesting, that could make the album like a little bit more interesting. I don't know. That's the thing with this album, dude. It's like more focused on texture and sound play than it is like melodies and like actual reinforcing songs that you want to come back to and listen to. Like, this is more of an album I would picture as like you listen to it as an experience from front to back, and you sort of just are like mesmerized by like, why does this even exist the whole time? Yeah, it just sounds like you're thrown into a radio and you're being thrown around and you're bouncing around and you're hitting your head in all the radiator parts and just like the metal and the gears and stuff is breaking and you're insane and you're going crazy. But I love it. I love it. I think it's a really interesting album to exist. I think people should talk about it more in the Animal Collective discography. And yeah, it needs more love. Really needs more love. Because it's just so weird. Like, you're not going to hear an album like this ever again. That could go for every Animal Collective album. But honestly, this one is like, no one would ever have the balls to make something like this if it wasn't Animal Collective, to be real. So, next album. September Spirit by Overpaid. Overpaid, he's in the underground scene out of Atlanta, Georgia. I've worked with him on music before, especially on Double Rainbow Land. He got a song on there, Slumdog Raceway. Shout out Double Rainbow Land, my album. But this is sort of a really mind-blowing album from Overpaid himself. This sort of feels like an artist declaring their artistry to me. Because Overpaid self-produces, mixes, and masters and performs all of his own stuff. Like, he's like a 100% type of artist, the same way you would like a Jane Remover or a Quedeca or a Scuba Diver. And I feel like every 100% artist needs to have an album like this. Something that like almost like kills them to make, but is something that kind of declares that they're here to be an 100% artist, that they're here to stay. Like Quedeca's was like From Me to You. I feel like Overpaid's is September Spirit. It's like something that proves like, oh, these guys have an ambition that like we need to tune into now. I feel like I'm in the process of making my own. So that's kind of what this album is inspiring me for, is like just hearing all the passion, the production. I mean, so many production choices that just like speak to me as like, this is Overpaid. Like glistening percussions like circling over the songs. You have like a synth motif that comes in throughout the song. It's like a I don't even know, it's like a wind sound or like some sort of thing, but it's on like a couple different songs to just showcase like the motif of like you're in this album, like this is an experience, like you're hearing the same sound through different songs, like this is a thing. Star-Crossed is my favorite song on the album. The way it's mixed, the way it's so bouncy, it's so insane, it's so sharp. Like this whole album is very sharp, but also very like intense and heavy. There's some moments where these songs just explode. They just explode, and it can really only be done if Overpaid really stressed himself out to make a singular vision, because he's a young dude. You know, it's not like he has a team of people behind him who are telling him how to do this stuff. He has to really critically think about every decision he's doing on this album, and it really shows, and he really showed out, and it really inspires me as somebody who's working on his own stuff as well, a bit younger than him. So yeah. That's really dope. Next album, Mad Villainy by Madvillain. I've heard this album before. We all heard this album, but this time around the mixing was really blowing me away. Like I was listening to it in the car and I was like, whoa, this is like super crazy. Because you have so many different vintage sort of effects and samples in the same frequency range. I sound like such a nerd, but like, dude, it's like, how do you make all this fit? You know, but he does. Through like feats of compression, and there's still some places where like you think the bass is kicked in, it's like, oh, this is the bass for the song, nice, and like a whole other layer of sub will come in, it's the same sample, right? It's like, man, like just Madlib really is sort of just like he's a producer that knows what he's doing, kind of realizing how intentional he is at everything he does. And yeah, it kind of blew me away this time around. Also, I mean, like MF Doom, rest in peace the villain. Hold up. Love MF Doom, right? Look at that. Isn't that pretty cool? That's a mirror. This album's just great. Two people in complete congruence with what they want to make, making something truly kind of revolutionary. That's kind of what I got out of it. Also, maybe it's because I'm listening to a lot of Animal Collective this month, but this album kind of does remind me of like Animal Collective production, the way there's so many different sounds just sweeping around, sort of just like weird little things, almost like adding sounds as a sense of humor, like adding something in the back that like might make people laugh. Like it's not even meant for like to make the song better. It's just like, oh, that's something funny if people pick up on, they can like laugh at as they're listening to the album. Yeah, just an insane aesthetic, never shows any cracks. Crazy vintage villainous little album. Really appreciate it. Rest in peace, the villain. Next album, Roll with the Punches by Perry Mason. So I wrote down in my notes, that's all I wrote, because this album, like, legitimately, I don't even know if I have the space to talk about it. It blew me away when I listened to it. I was on the cardio bike listening to this album, really kind of just giving it its full attention, just like only me in this bike, just like literally just like locked in, listening to every word Perry's saying. And dude, it like genuinely, it kind of broke me. I was in the car afterwards, just like absolutely, like just like I could fucking cry, dude. Saved by the Bell 2. What the fuck? What the fuck? This is an art piece, dude. It's just making me fucking... That's how I feel. I'm feeling like I'm just witnessing Perry Mason. Like in shambles from this album. Because if you don't know the context for this album, Perry Mason's an underground artist who got diagnosed with his cancer in his knee earlier this year. And I've worked with him before this whole thing went down. And just like seeing him absolutely power through this like insane moment of his life and then consistently release 5 albums during the most treacherous period of his entire life, and then to have this be the final period on the whole thing, the last album he releases in December, sort of putting the period on this whole arc he had with beating cancer. I can't really do it justice by talking about it. It's something you have to listen to. It's not even, I don't even see it more of an album as I see it like an art piece on what it means to be somebody who valiantly defeated one of the most impossible things in the human experience. Like this whole 2024 run that Perry's had almost feels like just an art piece in itself. Okay, 5 albums, this period of his life. He's making music videos consistently. He's engaging with fans consistently. And this album, to finish it off, I mean, the production is beautiful. Most of it helmed by Zion Cat, who's a really dope producer. Shout out Zion Cat. But man, this is a heavy album. The album cover is exactly kind of the feeling you get from this album. It's him. It's him talking about his experience battling the most insane thing he's ever had to deal with in his entire life. And he's detailing all the nitty gritty parts of it that nobody would really want to hear, but is like the true story. And the way he writes too, the way I just listened to Saved by the Bell 2. Saved by the Bell 2 legitimately like left me all I had to pause the album, I had to rewind that song. But I don't even know if I have the place to be talking about it still, you know? This might be too soon to say. It might be. It gives me like a Bob Dylan feeling, man. It's like this dude is really just about the art. But yeah, there's that. So next album, Feels by Animal Collective. This album is pretty much Teenage Crush Feelings, the album. It's very lovey-dovey, dude. This album feels like jumping into a swimming pool with your crush during the summer and everything's going right and you're laughing and you're having the best time and you stay up all night and you're just like, it's that type of album. I think Mayweather Post Pavilion had hints of that because Merriweather Post Pavilion came out significantly like a number of years after this album. But this album is like what it's like to experience it in the moment. When Merriweather Post Pavilion is giving you like an aspect on Summertime Clothes or like Bluish or something, this album is like what it feels like. This is what it feels like to have a crush on somebody when you're a kid and you're innocent and you don't really have any sort of inhibitions. The lyrics are so insane. They're almost perverted, bro. A.V. Terror, the main vocalist, he's singing in this really weird way where he's like, I love you and I want to touch you and I want to run with you. It almost sounds like a fluttering bird or something, like somebody who's just like so enamored by love. He's like, oh, it's pouring out of me. I love you. I have a crush on you. Right? It's like that's kind of the vibe we're getting vocally this whole album. And he can say some pretty outlandish stuff, like on the song, what's it called? The Purple Finger or the Purple something. The Purple Bottle. I saw you put your purple finger on me. There's a feeling in your bottle. Found your bottle. Found your heart. Gives a feeling from your bottled little part. Okay, bro. Like like that's the lyrics on this thing. But the way he uses his vocals makes it sound so innocent and so like interesting. It's like so weird. It's like it's art. It's art. I mean, that's what art does, right? It gives you something that's supposed to be kind of weird and uncomfortable and it feels kind of off, but the way it's presented just makes sense. It's almost like a dream. All the stuff you see in your dream is outlandish and wild and crazy, but the logic of the dream, the mindset you're in is like, oh, this is normal. Like you'll have moments where the vocals are going meow, 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 and it's like a cartoon. It's like legitimately like innocent kid, like nothing can go wrong. I can do whatever I want. That's what this album feels like. And it's crazy how an album is able to make you feel like that so holistically. Like there's not a moment in this album where I'm like, oh, this doesn't sound like having a crush on, like this whole album sounds like having a crush on somebody. How do you make music that sounds like having a crush on somebody? Like being a child innocently crushing. I don't know how you do that, but they did. It's beautiful too. It's beautiful. The soundscapes are beautiful. And the last album I listened to this month, the 13-inch Stiletto album by Zuzu. This album is like an industrial crazy production album. Sort of like if Death Grips was half white and half female. They got a drummer for this album. I listened to Girl with a Basket of Fruit back when these two were a duo, Jamie and I'm forgetting the other girl's name. I apologize. Excuse me. I listened to an interview with both of them too, which is kind of embarrassing. But overall, I don't know. It's not really striking me as much as like Basket of Fruit or something else that I've heard from Zuzu. I feel like these guys could go crazy. I know they have gone crazy in the past. The whole first song, Jamie, the main dude's like, I have done nothing with my entire adult life. It's like, chill, dude. Take a chill pill. Take a Xan or something. Very operatic with the vocals over this insane industrial production. You know, overall, this album wasn't as insane or cool or as memorable as what I've heard from them in the past. That's just kind of how I feel on this album in particular. But with that being said, that's December. Kind of like an Animal Collective ass December. I don't know if you could tell or not. I listen to a lot of them, but that's just kind of how it is. You know what I mean? We'll see what I listen to in January. We'll see what's really popping out of me, what's really sort of striking the tiger of my soul. Let me know what you listen to this December. Should I continue doing these? Do people even care? Do people harbor love more than they harbor hate in the grand scheme of Earth's collective consciousness? Who knows? Let me know in the comments below. Thank y'all for watching. That's every single album I listen to. Hopefully I gave some good insight. I don't really know. I don't know, bro. I gotta go on with the day, bro. I gotta go on with the day and exist. That's what I have to do. Alright, I'll see y'all. Have a good one.